Hello to this new tutorial. Today we are starting in Blender. I want to show you a workflow that you can use to export renderings, masks, line art and depth map to ComfyUI or Automatic1111. A simple workflow which, if you set it up one time, can be used for almost every scene in Blender to easily export everything to ComfyUI or Automatic11 or even other tools which use depth maps or line arts for the use in ControlNets, or masks for the use in painting or different compositing style operations. So we are here in the compositing tab in Blender. This will be our final setup. I will build a small, simple 3D scene, which I will use to show you how you set up everything. Here you can see the simple scene I will build up with you. It's simple. It's a simple corridor or tunnel with a simple cube in it. The corridor is good to use it as a depth map. I can show you how the depth map will look like afterwards. And the cube is good to show you how the mask thing would work. It's just an example, but it will show you in a simple way how you also can use this principle for more complex scenes. So let's start and build it up from scratch. I'm using Blender 4.0.2. I think it's the newest version. You can download it under blender.org. It's free and open source, and it's an awesome software which is really, really powerful. This is how it looks when you open Blender. It's a simple cube, and if you have a camera here and a simple coordinate system, you have a light. And let's start by setting up our camera. We click the camera in our outliner here over here in the top corner, and then we click this little arrow here to get the location rotation of the camera. We will set it to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So if we press 0 on the numpad, Blender will switch to the camera view. So let's position our camera now. We have to select the camera. So click on the border we see here, and then use that slider to move it outside. So something like this. Then select the cube with left click and press Tab on your keyboard. We will switch into the edit mode. Select the face select button and click on the cube. So we select the face which is facing to the camera. Then press X and select faces. We deleted the face which is facing to the camera, so we can look inside the cube. Now press Tab again to leave the edit mode and press S and Z so that we can scale the cube on the Z axis. Then move your mouse until you're happy with the size of the cube. So I scale it like this, that it is looking like a corridor. Then I press left mouse button to apply the setting. Now I want to add another cube. You press Add, Mesh, and cube. And we press S to scale this cube down. Something like this. Then we hit G to grab the cube and Z to move the cube a little bit further to the camera. Then we hit G again and Y to move it down. And let's scale it a little bit smaller, like half or so. So we hit S again to make it smaller. So this is a good setup to show the depth and the mask, I think. So the last thing I want to do is go to the right corner and enable the viewport shading. So we see nothing now. That is why, because of our light is outside of the cube. So select the light on the right corner in the outliner and press G. And then move your mouse till the light is inside the cube. So we see our room now, we see the cube now, and that should be enough to have a good example setup to show our workflow. So before we go to the compositing nodes in Blender, we need to set up some collections and view layers. For this, we have to move to the outliner again. Here we have our view layers, and we can click on this icon to create a new one. So I will call this lineart for our lineart export. I will create another one. I call it mask. These view layers I will now connect to collections we will create now. So this is a collection, we call it main. We create another collection by pressing on this icon. I will move it to the main scene collection. I call it lineart. And inside the main collection, I will create another collection, which I call mask. So I will put cube 1 into the mask collection. And that should be it for now. We select the line art collection and add a grease pencil object, grease pencil stroke. Then we press G and move this stroke out of the camera. Now we are going to the modifier in the stroke, add modifier and choose line art. Here we choose the collection where the line art should be assigned to. We have to choose main because the line art should be applied on all objects in the main collection. We choose the color layer and we choose a black material. Oh, it seems like the cube is quite small, so I make it a little bit bigger and move it a little bit on that axis back to the center and a little bit down again. So, okay. If you render this now, it will look like this. So everything is combined in one rendering, but we want everything separated. So for this, we use the compositor. So in the top, we choose the Compositing tab and click Use Nodes. So at first, we want to output our normal rendered result. To get separate passes of all view layers, we need to enable the film transparency in the right menu. Film it's under the render settings, film transparent. This is selected. After setting the film transparency setting, we need to set the settings for our view layers. So we choose the view layer here. Let's call it main. And tell the view layer settings here, properties, that it should also give us the environment here in the output of the compositing node. So we pull this out and choose the alpha over node like this and fill our image noodle into the image and the bottom image port and the environment noodle into the upper image port. This should combine the environment, the background, with the foreground. So we fill the image port to the image. And now to only get the scene without the line art, which we only want to use as a ControlNet, so we need the line art separated from everything else. So to exclude our line art from the rendering, we need to go to our main view layer and disable the line art collection here. If we press render now, this should give us the rendering as we wanted it without the line art and without the depth map as well. Sure, this is not a really beautiful scene, but it will show the principles of the creation of the workflow. So we have our rendering. Now we need to save it. So add output, file output, and connect the output. I like to call the folder render. This should output our rendering into the desired folder, into the folder render. So the next thing we want to export is our depth map. This is used for ControlNet in ComfyUI, for example, to give informations to ComfyUI to Stable Diffusion for the composition of the image. It is better and more precise if you do it in the 3D software, because if you create it in ComfyUI or Automatic1111, the software is guessing what the scene looks like. In Blender, you get exact information and you get the information from real geometry. ComfyUI or Automatic1111 are only guessing what the depth looks like. So to get the depth, we need to enable another pass in the view layer options. So we select that. This will give us the depth output here. So we connect this, we pull out the port and type in normalize. This will normalize the depth to a value between 0 and 1. We can fill this in color ramp node. so that we are able to control this, and we will switch it around to invert the color, the values, so that the depth map will get inverted. And then we use the alpha over node again. Fill the image to the bottom image, and now we choose black here. And then we fill in the alpha to the FAC value. And now we can define the file output path. So Shift D will duplicate the node, and we connect the image to the image and call this depth. So the depth map will be exported to the depth folder. So this is to export our render layer and the depth map. To set up the mask, we select the render layers node and click Shift D to duplicate it. Then we have to choose our mask collection view layer. We have to do some more settings in the outliner for the view layer. So select mask at the top, and then deselect main, but reselect the mask, and we deselect lineart. So only mask is selected now with our cube inside. So with these settings, we now need to convert our alpha mask to a black and white image. So pull out this, and let's select our alpha over node again. We choose black here, and then we can fill this into a viewer node to have a look what we got. So as you see in the background, we have a black background and a white image. So this is this we can now save as a mask, as a PNG file, to work to further use it in ComfyUI and Automatic1111 as a mask for inpainting. So duplicate the file output. Let's call the folder mask and connect image and image. So that should be it for the mask export. So we have our render layer which get exported. We have our depth map which get exported. We have our mask. And now in the end, we need our line art. So we duplicate the render layers node. We select line art. So we need to do some more settings over here in the outliner. We need to activate a filter. So click on the filter icon and choose holdout, the holdout icon over here. This brings us more icons, so that we need to not completely deactivate our mask collection and the main collection, because then our line art will not created and not rendered. We only need to activate the holdout on this collection. So on the main, on the mask, and that should be it. We should now be able to render some line art. So let's take the viewer node and fill in the image. So, and you see it in the background, there is some black line art on the gray background. But what we need is a white line art on black background. So we again need to use the alpha over node here. So pull out the alpha channel and select black as a color again, and then connect it to the viewer, and that should give us white line outline, line art, and a black background. So we can now save this, duplicate the file output, call it line art, and let's connect those parts. And that should be it. So with this setup, we are now getting our normal render output exported, we get the depth map exported, we get our mask exported, and we get our line art exported. So this is only a quite simple setup, but you can, for example, if you have several objects which you want to replace later on in ComfyUI with inpainting, you can simply duplicate those mask collections here in the outliner, and then you have to duplicate this mask nodes, and then you get as many masks as you like. That should give you the possibility to create as many masks as you need. I think that's it, what I wanted to show you today. This workflow is quite complex, but if you have created it once, you can simply use the blend file as a base for your setup, for your 3D scene, and simply fill in all the objects and things into your collections, and then with hitting F12 it should be all exported to your folders. And if you set up, for example, ComfyUI to read from those folders, you simply can change your Blender 3D scene, hit F12, and then those files are exported to the folders, and then you can rerun your Comfy workflow, and it should grab the new rendered files and create something on top of those updated files. I think this is a quite easy approach. The only thing which is a little bit complicated is the work with the collections and the view layers and the holdout option. But if you have set it up once, it should make things quite simple. In the next tutorial, I will show you how you work with the exported layers in ComfyUI. I hope this tutorial helped you and it was not too complicated to understand. If you have questions, please comment below. I will link you the Blender file in the description. If you made it to this point, I'm really happy. Since I'm starting this YouTube journey and I haven't done so many videos so far, please comment and subscribe. That would help me a lot. And yeah, I hope I will see you again. Goodbye.